सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ओम शांति शांति शांति। Om, may He protect us both. May we both enjoy together. May we both exert together. May our studies become brilliant. May we not become disputatious and hate each other. Om, peace, peace, peace. Hari Om everybody. So in the previous verse, we were talking about many people love this attitude of comparisons, comparing each other, the other person, my child versus your child, my husband versus your husband, my wife versus your wife, my parents versus your parents, my house versus your house, my materiality and sensuality, what I'm enjoying versus your materiality and sensuality, my spiritual dharma, religion, compared to your religion, who has the majority, who has the minority, my spiritual guru compared to your spiritual guru. We love comparisons. And here the Lord himself, Lord Krishna himself says that a person who compares anything for anybody, the only comparison what a person should have for evolution is only one. And that comparison is my today much better than what I was yesterday, as far as mentally it is concerned. So how I was probably 6 months back or a year back, where a pinprick used to agitate me. I used to face problems right, left and center, and I used to sit and weep and cry. Have I become better now, where perhaps the same problem or perchance more problems have come into my life, but more or less, I have tried to keep myself stable. So I am happier than what I was yesterday. And since I am happier than what I was yesterday, this happiness becomes a spillover and everybody around me is happy. So the only comparison should be that. People compare Sankhya Yoga and Karma Yoga also. You have done knowledge, you are inferior. I am into Karma Yoga, helping the world. I am better. All these children, they are just bala children. Let children compare. Mature people, what they should do is keep quiet. Children compare gifts. So what did I get for Xmas? They compare. That's all right. That's their age. Adults are not supposed to compare. So adults, they look at children comparing gifts, comparing shoes, comparing everything, and they shrug the shoulders and they don't say you are corrupt. Therefore, Mahatmas usually say there is no corruption. He says, Balaha is children. Only children compare with each other. But what does the teacher do? What can the teacher do? It's so difficult for the teacher to do anything. Seriously. A student comes and says, sir, I am in grave problem. Please help me. And the teacher says, yes, tell me what is your problem. I'll try to find a solution to it. The student says, sir, you know that I've got these two horns on my head. The left side of the horn, at the base, if you see, there is a crack there. I don't know what happened. Must have hit something in my sleeve. So there is a crack there and a pus is forming and it pains really bad. I went to one doctor and two doctors and they said that no, it has to be removed. That left horn has to be removed. I don't know what to do, sir. Please, can you suggest me some Ayurvedic concoction or something, homeopathic or even allopathy? I'm ready to do anything which can get rid of my pain. The teacher has got these three choices. One, to agree that he is seeing the horns over your head and give a remedy thereof, which he knows he is lying. The second option is the teacher trying to talk to the student that the horns are not there at all. It is just your imagination that is causing chaos and agitation, stress and tension. But then the student goes away because the pain is real. The agitation is real. The stress is real. And the third option the teacher has is to keep quiet. And all the three can be misunderstood. So what does the teacher do? Nothing. You can't do anything. It's like small children asking, this is what happened in my life. Whatever life I am living or anybody is living is just living out of delusion. Long time back when I went to the academy, the ashram, some student went to the acharya and asked, which work should I do? Should I take up carpentry or should I take up gardening? What should I do? Or should I take up construction? Activities within the academy, ashram itself. And the teacher brilliantly pointed out, doesn't matter what you take, because whatever you take, it will be wrong. Because every action we are doing with tremendous egocentric desires. I factor is the one doing it. I am the doer, and until that is there, agitations are not going to go anywhere else. So all you can do is study and reflect. Every time. What do? Keep on listening. There are only two aspects. Everything is divided into these two horizons. One, people who listen, and the others who don't. Listen to the scriptures. Now the problem is, listen to the scriptures said by a particular person who understands the scripture, who needs to be charitable to the audience and the people who is listening to him or her. So all these qualifications of the teacher is also there. So I can't just rely, or anybody can't just rely on the textbook and start talking what the textbook has said. It will be very irritating for others who are at the ground level. So as a student, what I am supposed to do is only one thing: sit and listen. When I'm listening, there's a difference. I think you know, there's a difference between listening and hearing. Hearing is where most of people sit and hear a particular teacher or a song or whatever it is, and it disappears from the head as far as the experience goes away. Listening is you are sitting there digesting the whole thoughts or the song or the dialogue, whatever it is, and trying to implement it in their life. So when you try to implement something which you have heard, it becomes beautiful. The same song becomes a philosophy. The same poetry becomes a philosophy. Nanni Chiti, which is that? छोटी छोटी जल की बूंदे सागर को भर देती है, बालों की रज नन्ही नन्ही सुधर भूमि रच देती है, क्षण क्षण काल इकट्ठा होकर लंबा युग बन जाता है, क्षण को शूद्र न समझो भाई, ये जग का निर्माता है. It's the primary section poem, but the value of time is told in this. This is the value of time. So when any point of time you are thinking about every aspect of one's life, you are trying to learn more. This is listening. Hearing is you use both your ears, it comes from here and goes out of the other. So always listen, never hear. That is where the demarcation comes between these two categories. One is called the yukta and the other is called the ayukta. We'll just read the translation and the verse. Yukta karma phalam tyaktva shanti mapnoti naishtikim ayukta kamakarena phale sakto nibadhyate. The yukta, united one, having abandoned the fruit of action, attains eternal peace. The ayukta, non-united, impelled or pushed by desire and attachment to fruit, is bound. Two categories. Yukta. What yukta? Yukta is united. The definition of yukta is united. What is the meaning of united? Whenever I have understood that I am an individual, I have heard, we have heard that there is a state called perfection, which is called Brahman, Atman, or a simple English language, state of self-realization, state of perfection at the highest level. When this individual is living in the world as an individual, he or she goes through a lot of agitation, stress, and strain. Whenever this individual tries to become a perfect person on a higher realm, the agitations reduce. At the highest level, state of self-realization, there is no agitation. All of us are within that bracket of trying to achieve and become better than what we were. So all of us are yukta. So a yukta is one who is functioning in the world. And how is he functioning? Simple. No attachment, abandonment of fruit of action. Giving up the fruit of action. Now this is a very big misnomer as far as Shastras are concerned. Because majority of the people think when you say don't get attached to the fruit of action, don't think about fruit of action. Without thinking about the fruit of action, you will never improve in life. So many people have discarded this knowledge with this attitude. What is the use of? They just say, Shanti raho, प्यार से रहो, अच्छी तरह रहो, किसी की बुराई मत करो, don't do anything bad for anybody, keep silent, keep good, keep on smiling. This is not religion. Religion is doing to the best of your ability whatever needs to be done. And don't get obsessed about the fruit of action. While action is being delivered, while I am acting, if I keep on thinking about what is going to be the fruit of action, then at present the action will get impaired, it will get destroyed. And therefore, if the action is not perfect, the result will not be perfect. Therefore, not to think about the result, you continue your start jumping. So you plan, this is the result I want. And then you start your action. After the action, this is how a yukta functions in the world. After the action is done, let the result come whenever it comes. And if the result is appropriate according to your efforts. You think you deserve, therefore you got it. Be happy with it. If it is not appropriate according to what your action is, then process change of that particular action. So keep on changing the process, keep on changing the application towards the action until you meet the desired result. But never expect that this should be the result. That expectation and that attachment to the result is what destroys the whole fun in the game. When I am acting, never think from the point of view of what will I get from that. This is Yukta. Yukta is not only scriptures. Yukta is not only saying Rama, 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 or Krishna, 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 or Jesus, Jesus. That is not Yukta. Yukta, as it is said, prayer is not a part-time pastime. It is a full-time awareness of truth. My prayer doesn't start when I'm sitting before an idol and singing bhajans or studying the scriptures of the Bhagavad Gita or the Upanishads or anything for that matter. My prayer starts when I get out of the temple, church, or mosque or Gurudwara. And throughout the whole day, what I do, and come back the next day to the same altar. That is my prayer. My true prayer is what I do outside the abodes of gods and goddesses. That is what is important. It is not, my prayer doesn't end in the puja mandir. It starts after I leave and ends when I come back. So Yukta is all activities done with great purpose in life. Everything. How to become, somebody went and told Vivekananda how to become a spiritual person. Vivekananda said, go and play football. Act in the world. So as soon as you start acting, see, you take a person who doesn't want to act at all, sort of a lazy person, tamasic person, and he is very happy. So you ask him, are you really happy? He says, yes, I'm very happy because everything is provided. Tea, coffee, juices are provided, food is provided, everything. Therefore, I'm sitting nicely and sleeping and I don't have any problems. As soon as you put that person into activity, okay, do this to a youngster, say, go and pay the bills, do this, do this, do this. Now we can't say go and pay the bill because you do it by the phone only. But anything, go outside and do this, go outside and do this, meet that person and come. As soon as they go out and come, they get agitated. A sattvic person moves throughout constantly, but is never agitated. A tamasic person is happy doing nothing. A rajasic person is doing things, but is never happy. He is constantly running here, and the body is constantly tired. A sattvic person is constantly running here, but this completely silent. Your body, Swami Ramtirtha's quotation, law actually, your body should follow the law of dynamics and your mind should follow the law of static. So it is never said you should not think about the result. In fact, there are these two concepts in Sanskrit, phala chinta and phala visandhi. Phala chinta is thinking about the result. That everybody does. Every animal does, every insect does, every human being should do. When we are communicating here, there is of course a result. Isn't it? I am talking to you because I have a result in my mind that it should reach people. It should change their life. It is result orientation. When you are listening to me, you are listening for a purpose. No, sir, actually, we like you so much, therefore we are listening. Then from next class, we'll do something. I promise from next class onwards, supposing, I'm not doing that, I'm just saying, I promise from next class onwards, March 1st, se leke March end tak, we will have the same class, same time, 5 to 6. every Thursday. Only thing is, I will sit, I'll chant Sahana Bhavatu and just sit like this with my eyes closed for whole 1 hour, or look at you and smile. Show my hand like this. Full lecture for the whole month. How many of you will come and tune in to exactly 1 hour? You will sit there for one lecture. Maybe he has to say something. Maybe he's going to say something. Second lecture, your mind will start. What is the use of sitting like this? This I can do it at my home, even without the monitor. I just have to close my eyes and sit. What is the use? He's not going to talk at all. There is no taking point. Therefore, everything will stop. This is Phalachinta. Result orientation should be there. Everybody works for result. Even when Lord Krishna talked to Arjuna, why did he talk? Did he talk to Arjuna saying that, Arjuna, I'm just talking like that because time pass kar rahe hain, battlefield where you are also agitated, aisi baat kar rahe hain. Then after half an hour we'll decide whether to fight or not. It was not that. Now, whatever you want to do, you do. It's not that. That last verse of Krishna, Yatha Ichhasi Tata Kuru, is not to be taken from the point of view of do what you want to do. It's a wrong interpretation. Yatha Ichhasi Tata Kuru has a subsequent line which says, after contemplation of whatever I have said to you about how to live your life, do what you will. Indicating that after reflection of it, do what you will. So conditions are there, conditions apply. He wanted the result. Everybody wants. This is called Phalachinta. It is normal. But the other concept, Phalabhisandhi, is attachment to the result. Attachment. So when you are attached to a result, then when the result comes, 99% of the time, it is never commensurate to your efforts. It will always be a little less. Nobody says, wow, I just wrote one blank paper with only one question, I got 100 marks. It can never happen. It will always be, I expected 95 at least, but I got only 92. Always less. And because you got 92, because you got less than what you think you deserve, the focus becomes why did I get less? Why did I? And then you start cursing everybody around and ultimately come to a very good conclusion. Actually, no, goodness does not pay. It is only evil people and corrupt people who flourish and prosper. अच्छे लोग को कुछ फर्क नहीं पड़ता. They will be as they are. You can't help it. And that is the dangerous part of it. Phalabhisandhi is attachment to your fruit of action to such a level that it imparts the subsequent action. Now you are not going to do anything better. Why? Because it doesn't pay. What is the use of doing good to the society, sir? It doesn't pay. I gave this homework to one of the schools where I teach. I told the children, weekly once there was a class. So I told the children, beta, homework for everybody. So they made a big face, oh God, homework. I said, don't worry, it's a very sweet homework. Nothing will happen to you. Even if you don't do it, it's all right. But do it, right? With a good exercise. As soon as you get out of the school, you'll meet a lot of people on the streets, wherever. As soon as you see somebody spitting, you have to tell that person, man, woman or child. It was in Hindi school tha. So they said, Bhaiya ji or Behan ji, please aap mere desh ko ganda mat kijiye. Yeah, talking about 6th standard children. Go to them and say that, please don't spoil my country. Thank you very much. This is very easy. So we'll do. I said, okay, next class, you'll come next week and you'll let me know what is your response. Next week they came. And they said, sir, bahut galiyan mili. I said, acha, galiyan, don't tell me the gali, but what was the gist? He said, everybody saying, tumhare father ka rasta hai, tumhari iska rasta hai, all these bad words. And I said, how many of you? So the first 3-4 people gave bad words and all, and they pushed us. I said, then I said, then we stop telling anybody. That's what we do. We get one negative comment and we are off. We get one spiritual person who may be not administering the verses properly or not educating the people, and we come to a conclusion that all spiritual people are bad. Yes, सब महात्मा लोग ऐसे ही हैं. We don't do that to doctors. When a doctor is caught up in a corruption case, why don't we say all doctors are bad? We don't do that. All lawyers are bad. We don't do that. But when it comes to spirit, don't do that. Use your own head. Like George Bernard Shaw says, the most intelligent person I have met in my life is my tailor. The most intelligent person I have met in my life is my tailor. You know what? Every time I go to him, he takes fresh measurements. So phala bhisandi is that attachment to the action, fruit of action, and this is what it should be. And that's the trouble. So when you are a yukta, you are not attached to the fruit of action you have given up, therefore you are peaceful. One is the cause, the other is the effect. I have given up the attachment of action, the fruit of action, therefore I am peaceful. The ayukta has held on to the attachment after doing so much for the family, yet see, no sir, nobody respects me. What kind of a respect do you want? What kind of a respect? Will a thank you do? Will a thank you card do? From whom? You know what is true love? True love is understanding the other person as he or she is, not as you would like him or her to be. True love is that Australian crocodile hunter called Steve Irwin, where he is trying to bring the crocodile, a 20-footer crocodile, outside the pond. And that crocodile is coming and snapping at him. That fellow jumps out, literally jumps. And he looks at that crocodile from behind and says, wow, what a beauty. Have you seen crocodile's teeth? It's this big. And that fellow was snapping at him. And he jumps all the way back and says, what a beauty. And he does what requires to be done with that crocodile. He heals the crocodile. Crocodile had some problem. He heals it and sees to it that it goes back into the water. And you know something interesting, I'll tell you. Okay, this is a secret. Not many people know. Even if you see that clip, it is not shown there. The crocodile turns back. It looks at this person and says, thank you very much for doing what all, you know, I'm very grateful with my life. There is no dialogue like that. The crocodile is God. It never says thank you. It doesn't turn back. In fact, it looks at him only to bite. And this fellow, after rectifying the whole situation, giving a solution to somebody who doesn't deserve, says, what a beauty. If this is not spirituality, I don't know what it is. What a beauty. So that attachment to the fruits should not be there. And when you are attached to the fruit, consequently, you will go through suffering and agitation. 100%. There's no doubt about that. That is the reason that example is given in the Upanishads. One bird sitting on one particular branch and enjoying the fruits of the tree. It has got some seeds with it and it is enjoying the fruits. Some of the fruit is very raw, so it makes a face and throws it away. And some of the fruit is very ripe, so it makes a face and eats. So it keeps on eating raw, ripe constantly. This represents every individual's life where they go through various expenses, some good, some bad. And that's what life is all about. And this bird is enjoying each and every aspect of life sitting on that branch. I forgot to mention lower branch. Because on the higher branch, There is another bird sitting, absolutely calm, absolutely still, not moving at all. It looks like that bird is in samadhi. It is in a transcendental state. It's a different state altogether. So peaceful. And this bird, which is constantly enjoying and constantly getting agitated, looks up that bird, that how that bird is so peaceful. And then it hops on that branch, slowly sits and moves towards that bird. That is the yukta. Yoga is that, moves towards that bird. And as he comes close, he finds out that that bird was not there at all. He merges with that bird and finds out that he is the bird. It was just his image. Accordingly, he himself portrayed himself somewhere else in the upper branch. And then he becomes peaceful and silent. Our whole journey is from ayukta, taking this world with complete seriousness, completely attached to action, completely attached to whatever comes out of that action, and getting agitated and strained continuously, fighting over everything that needs to be fought for, and each and every fight is justified. I had no shoes and complained until I met a man with no feet. I had no shoes and complained until I met a man with no feet. So every time there is something, and such a person, ayukta, will constantly cry. There is no way of reducing anybody's agitation and stress, because there are no horns, there are no cuts, there are no grievances. It's all a one big delusion. But this is what is yukta and ayukta. So as soon as you come to the state of yukta, be like the bird. Enjoy your life, but understand there is something higher in life. There is a state, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. There is a state which is called perfection, where you go through so many. Sir, but I doubt. Why should we listen to all these realized people, so-called? Because we don't know now. Fair enough. Learn from your own experiences. How many of you have gone for holidays? Why holidays? Even in your own house, how many of you have experienced 1 hour or 1 day of no agitation? You are in a different zone of yourself. You see the mountains, you see the flowers, you see the greenery, you see the rivers, you see everything, and you are just in a very nice place internally, where the world can't come and touch you, can't come and disturb you. You are so peaceful and so good. That state, how many of you have experienced? Everybody. At least for an hour, at least for 2 hours. Sir, at least a day I spent like this with my husband, my wife. Sometimes when they are not there, it was better. All 1 day I had spent like this, 6 hours I had spent like this, completely at peace with myself, where I opened my eyes and I did not want anything from life. Happy to be alive. Everything feels good. All of us have experienced this, even it is for 1 hour. So if I can experience that for 1 hour, is it so difficult that I can't elongate that 1 hour into 6 hours? Yes, sir. 6 hours I can try. Do it. 6 hours ka ek din. Then what we have to do? Our preoccupations, the world needs to be reduced, and something else needs to be adjusted accordingly. Imagine a lifetime of this, where they shrug the shoulder and say, whatever happens, let it happen. You tell me what is the problem, I'll provide the solution. Try to provide. If you want to listen, listen. Otherwise, bye-bye. You be happy, I be happy, as simple as that. That attitude is there where nobody in the world can agitate. To reach that state is the highest. And once you reach that state, there are no differences. There comes the next verse, chapter 5, verse 18. Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Gavihastini Shuni Chaiva Shvapake Cha Pandita Samadarshinaha. Beautiful. When you have come towards the state of ayukta, move towards that bird in the process of yukta, wanting to join, and you become that. The highest, reach the highest state, where nothing agitates you. Nothing agitates you is not necessarily spiritual. I had to add this, sorry. Nothing agitates you doesn't necessarily mean spiritual, because a tamasic person can laze around throughout the day, have no responsibilities, and has no agitations. What we are talking about is constantly productivity in the world, doing what you are supposed to do to the best of your ability, and subsequently not get agitated. That kind of a person is Pandita, is a wise person. I'll read the translation. The wise view equally a Brahmana endowed with learning and humility, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and even an outcast. Look at the comparison. We love dividing everybody into different classes. We call everybody different classes, upper caste, lower caste. The lower caste fellow can't drink from upper classes well. If he drinks, then his head is chopped off. They can't get married. So many concepts. Whole India is divided into class, and class. And everybody's in their own classes. Not bothered. The way you put down the other person is amazing. A person having a bicycle, and if I have a car, it's natural that I put that fellow down. If the person has a normal car vis-a-vis the person, somebody else who's got a Mercedes Benz, it's natural to put that person down. It doesn't come when you don't need to put down saying that, no, I'm putting you down. It comes in one stone. Acha, you have a house here. That area is better. Acha, you are shopping here. Whom are you wearing? It is not what are you wearing. It is no more what clothes are you wearing. It's who are you wearing. Which designer. Somebody asked me, whose kurta we're wearing? It's a Sonu tailors. Some Sonu guy is touched it. What are the criteria? What are the toys that makes our joys? It's just amazing. So a Pandita is one who sees everybody as the same. And who all he sees? He sees a Brahmin. A Brahmin is one who has understood Brahman, the supreme reality, more or less, endowed with the highest quality of sattva. So sattva quality is predominant. The person is peaceful, understood and studied life, and therefore is able to express his or her experiences to others so that they can make their life better. They can make their life better. Therefore, naturally, they become teachers. They will go towards teaching because they have understood something better in life. A Brahmin is not the one who is born in a Brahmin family. A Brahmin is one who's got the sattva guna to predominant level. So a person being born even in a poor house, but great mind and intellect, great sattvic is a Brahmin. Wherever he or she is born, doesn't matter. Low caste and high. In that case, if people born in a particular house is what is important, then Prahlada was born in Hiranyakashyap's house, in his wife's womb. His mother was a wife of Hiranyakashyapa. Constantly born in the house of the Asura, he was one of the biggest devotees. This story itself breaks the whole concept of touchables, untouchables, and all these things. So a Brahmin, and not only Brahmin by word, who has got these qualities. What are these qualities? Vidya Vinaya Sampanne. A person who has got, who's blessed with Vidya, knowledge, and Vinaya, humbleness. When humility is not there with knowledge, it becomes arrogance. When only knowledge is there and humility is not there, it becomes arrogance. You put everybody down, right, left, and center, because you think you are at the highest level of spiritual growth. You are at the highest level. So you start putting everybody down, right, left, and center. So if you know English language, you put other people down who don't know English. If you can make fun of somebody, you keep on making fun of it. You can keep on putting others down. It's so easy to put the other person down. Arrogance is developed when Vidya is there, but humility is not there. When humility is there only, and no Vidya is there, no knowledge is there, then it is equal to idiocy or stupidity. What is there to talk? You know, I can't talk. I don't want to talk. Then you don't know to talk. Then you don't deserve to be in that place. But both these combined, a person should have knowledge also, and a person can shrug the shoulder and say, I don't know. What you are asking, I don't know. Maybe I'll learn and tell you. That humility to just accept people as they are. This is what was said about the great master, Tapovan Maharaj. When Tapovan Maharaj was talking in the jungles of the Himalayas, he was teaching the teachers of Vedanta, the highest substratum. He was giving a lecture there in pure Sanskrit. He was talking and everybody were listening. I don't know whether it was Sanskrit or English, but he was talking. And all these teachers who were teaching other students were listening. Suddenly in between, a village lady came, a poor lady, and she did pranams to Tapovan Maharaj in his kutia, and she gave some sweets to eat. And immediately Tapovan Maharaj took that sweet, he distributed it to everybody. He also ate, and he was asking the lady, "Ghar pe sab theek hai na? Is everything all right? How is your husband? How are the children? Are they studying or not? They are supposed to study." Yeah? They saw this communication between that ignorant lady and the greatest master ever, Tapovan Maharaj, who was a well-known saint. Tapovan, the penance in the forest, that's the way the name Tapovan comes to. Penance in the forest. This name is given not by himself. Some people take their own names and say, I am Swami so and so. It's not that. The people who were there in the forest, the rishis and sages, gave that name to this man. That level of penance and tapas. And he's talking to this ignorant lady at her level. So all the people, after the lady went, all the teachers, they were asking that, I can't understand on one breath you are talking about that highest level of philosophy that the world does not exist. Everything is a maya, everything is a delusion. And the next second, you are talking to this lady and so careful and you're making her feel special. What is that talent? He said, it's not a talent. It is just she has given something to eat. It's divinity. Whenever there is anybody to serve you in whatever way, you have to be gratitude towards it, because it is that divinity that expresses through everything. So a Brahmin who has understood a little bit of Brahman, and he's got these two qualities of humility and Vidya. So a person at the highest level. Second, Gavihi, a cow, an elephant, and a dog. Cow represents Sattva, dog represents Rajas, elephant represents Tamas. Don't stick to it and say, how can we say cow is Sattva? How can we say elephant is Tamas? It is just to show, it's just an example. What can they? They can't give any other example, human beings. So some animals they have to give. What they are saying is, cow is meek and mild. You see the cow, especially in India, when you are driving somewhere and if you see a cow in the middle of the road and you keep on honking for the cow to move, the cow will look at you, one look, it will give as if, excuse me, this is my road, you move, you go from there. And it doesn't move. Completely peaceful and silent. Sattva. Dog running around everywhere. Like anybody comes to the house, constantly going on. Elephant, you see, it represents Tamas. Actually, it doesn't. For me, it is Sattvic. But one look, lazy, going in one place. There is no Tamas in any animals. But some animals represent Tamas. Just because the way the sloth is a good example of Tamas. Example, I'm not saying it is Tamas, but good example. Why? Because even when it is climbing a tree, when it wants to go for nature's call, it doesn't have to go on the tree. Nature's call, it has to climb all the way down and then do the necessary thing. And it takes 24 hours for it to come down. Can be represented. So a cow, a Rajasic person running around in the world, completely agitated. A Tamasic person, not bothered what happens without any consequences to himself or anybody else around him. A Sattvic person who is going to temples and churches and mosques and trying to be good as he can, or a Brahmin who's reached this highest, approximately highest state with these qualities of Vidya and Vinaya. All these different categories of human beings, including an outcast, a person who eats dogs. So it is Brahmin who has Vidya and Vinaya, a cow, a dog, an elephant, and a person who eats dog. All these, matlab, the lowest level of human beings, all these people are viewed Panditaha Samadarshinaha as the same. One divinity expressing through all these manifestations. Every aspect of life seen beautiful. Greatest people have fallen down to this outcast thing. Great people. Adi Shankaracharya, we are doing Bhajagovindam already in one of the classes. Adi Shankaracharya is said to be walking where there was a Chandala, a low caste person coming before him. And his old Brahmin Tattva came. In the olden days, when the Brahmin walked, they would not allow any other caste to come in between because they thought Brahmins are superior, endowed with knowledge. So they, other caste, will give them the way and they will go first. This was the rule then, which is wrong actually. Then Shankara is going, this Chandala comes before him. So Shankara looks at that person and says, Hanta, Hanta, get away, get away. Actually, he says this after studying the whole Granthas and writing the commentary on the Mahabharata and the Bhagavad Gita. When he is walking and trying to preach everybody at that time, he says, Hanta, Hanta. And that Chandala, with a stick in his hand, he says to Shankara, whom are you asking to move? Are you asking this physical body to move, which has no relevance anyway? Or are you asking the self to move, which is everywhere? Whom are you asking to move? And Shankara immediately understands that this person is more wiser than we. He falls at his feet And then the story goes that it is actually Lord Shiva. But he falls at the feet of the Chandala, and then he recites beautiful 5 verses of why there is no casteism and everywhere it is only self, self, and self. Manisha Pushpakar. These are great textbooks. These are great masters who may have made some errors, but they have come down and said, listen, there are no differences. Don't dare distribute anybody into different castes, upper and lower. All of us are same and everybody is struggling for their 2 bit. Nobody is bothered about anything else. Each and every individual here, whether it's a Hindu or a Muslim or a Sikh or a Christian or a Punjabi, whoever it is, they are only bothered that is my children's education going on well? Are there 2 rotis on my plate where we can eat? Let my neighbor not go hungry. Only that. A person who has so-called a global vision, a person who sees what I needs to be done for the whole country, not parts thereof. Such a person is a wise person. The rest are all ayukta. Life goes on. Think about it. We'll continue next time. Oh.